Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I recently came across a video with Rahman Hassan and Abu Mus'ab where they were having a discussion on a podcast, and the question came up of using philosophy in da'wah, propagation to Islam, and in particular da'wah to atheists in particular, using philosophy and kalam. So let's listen to a bit of what they said, and let's come back and talk about this.
Using philosophy to give da'wah. And when I say philosophy, I'm referring specifically to ilm al-kalam. We know that the Salaf were very critical of ilm al-kalam and using that as means to give da'wah.
Shafi'i said there's nothing more hated to me than ilm al-kalam and its people. And so scholars, they hated ilm al-kalam. And ولذلك Shafi'i has another famous statement, which is, he said, حكمي على أهل الكلام أن يضربوا بالجريد والنعال. My ruling on the people of Ahlul Kalam is that they get lashed. With what? With jarid, يعني branches, والنعال and shoes, ويطاف بالعشائر, and that they are paraded in the market. And then it said about them, هذا جزاء من أعرض عن الكتاب والسنة وأقبل على علم الكلام.
So as you guys can see here, there was an unfavorable tone in terms of using philosophy and kalam in da'wah. Now I think this is problematic to say the least. Not least because al-hukmu ala shay far'an an tasawwurihi, as the usuli principle maxim goes, that in order really to be able to make a judgment on the case or to do a hukm on the case, that you have to know what it is in the first place. And I think the lack of understanding, with all due respect to Rahman Hassan, of philosophy and what it entails, because he hasn't gone and asked people who have delved into this matter, has led him to say things which are quite preposterous and off the mark. And for that reason, I invite him on the MH podcast to discuss his views, which I believe are disturbingly off the mark and which have a stunting effect on the Muslim community, both in terms of da'wah to non-Muslims and in fact da'wah within its own community. In the age of isms and LGBT and new atheism, if you are saying that we cannot use rational, logical, or philosophical arguments in da'wah, and this is your position, right, then you must be able to defend your position. You must be able to show and demonstrate and exhibit to the public that you know even what philosophy is. Because of course it would be wrong for you to make a judgment or to make a fatwa really on an issue which you don't know what it is in the first place. So we need to be very clear what we think philosophy and kalam and all those things, that these words, what you think they mean, so we're on the same page. And then you need to explain to us on what basis you have come to your conclusion. As for us, the position that we hold on this matter is very clear. The position that we hold for this matter is not only that should philosophy be used. This is, I think, a ridiculous question. It's the fact that philosophy is inescapable in these discourses, something unavoidable. And this is what I believe that we can have a discussion about. And I'm not interested in having discussions right now on other issues. This is a very clear molten niza', or clear difference of opinion that we have with brother Rahman Hassan. I invite him once again to the podcast, to the MH podcast. If he wants, you can bring his brother Mus'ab. He can accompany him, and we can have a 3-year discussion, or indeed we can have one discussion after the next. I haven't got a problem with that. And I don't think we need to make people wait for this too long, because if you're willing to make a fatwa on this issue, it would suggest to me that you've got the workings out already in mind, and that you've already understood this matter and its entailments and implications. Of course, you would not be making what seems to be a judgment or a fatwa if you didn't have all those things in place. And so I think a 24-hour period would be a good time for us as the public to have to wait before we get an affirmative or negative response from you. And before I end this kind of clip, I want to say that I don't have a bad relationship with Rahman Hassan, and I know that they haven't come out and publicly tried to make tabdi' of us, and in fact there's no evidence that they've made tabdi' of us at all. We have this evidence. So in other words, we're not considered as Ahl Bid'ah by the brothers, and so there's no excuse here of they are mubtada'a, we don't sit with them because we don't sit with the mubtada'a. And also we know that you've sat with people in the past. And of course you've just called out Brother Haji for a discussion, About Khuruj, he's made a very, quite frankly, blunt and straightforward request to have Brother Haji doing a debate with him. I'm not asking for a debate, I'm just asking for a discussion. I hope you can defend your positions publicly under some level of scrutiny and under some level of interrogation. And I invite you, as a brother of mine who we have a good relationship with, to air out these grievances in public and let the people see two sides of the argument. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.